Hey guys, what's going on? John here, back again for another Magic the Gathering video. And in today's video, we've got an Extus Oriq Overlord and Awaken the Blood Avatar deck tech. This is a deck tech that's focused around the Awaken the Blood Avatar side for a very interesting sorcery-based commander deck that likes to exploit the sacrifice ability and the fact that it makes such powerful tokens. Before we get into the main video, I'd like to go over some channel promotions. First of all, it would help me a huge amount and take very little time out of your day if you subscribed and clicked the notification bell. Both of those things help grow my channel and they help me reach new people in the YouTube algorithm. Second of all, if you'd like to join my Discord, I'm always active on there. There's lots of people there who are helpful. You can suggest deck techs, everything else, and of course, you can support me on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. It's super helpful to me, allows me to continue buying cards for making my own Magic decks and continuing this channel, and you will get special perks, including certain roles on the Discord. Links to all are down below in the description. First things first, I'd like to go over the commander. The front side is Extus Oriq Overlord, which costs 1 white, black, for a 2/4 legendary creature human warlock with double strike and Magecraft. Whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, return target non-legendary creature card from your graveyard to your hand. The backside, which we're more focused on, is Awaken the Blood Avatar, which is a sorcery for 6 black-red. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each creature sacrificed this way. Each opponent sacrifices a creature. Create a 3/6 black and red avatar creature token with haste, and whenever this creature attacks, it deals 3 damage to each opponent. With that out of the way, let's get into the actual deck. Our first category is Feed Me. These are creatures that we want to sacrifice to awaken the Blood Avatar's cost ability, because we want to be able to create more avatars, but also we get a lot of payoffs from this deck for sacrificing these creatures. First up, we've got 3 creatures that can recur themselves: Bloodghast, Gutterbones, and Nether Trader. Bloodghast just requires us to play a land. Nether Trader requires us to pay a black when another creature is put into our graveyard, and Gutterbones we can pay 2 mana to return it from our graveyard to our hand if an opponent has lost life this turn, which usually will happen because of the way our Blood Avatar tokens work. Next up, we've got some token makers. Indrik Sar, Master Breeder, gives us a ton of Thrall tokens, and we're forced to sacrifice him if we control 7 or more Thralls. Luckily, that won't usually happen because we'll just sacrifice the Thralls instead to pay for Awaken the Blood Avatar, allowing us to keep Indrik Sar around. Ophiomancer makes a snake on each upkeep if we don't have any, allowing us to constantly have 1 creature to sacrifice and allow us to sacrifice snakes over and over, and it also creates some very good blockers. Finally, Bitter Blossom gives us a 1/1 Black Fairy Rogue with flying every turn, which is some really nice sacrifice fodder for only 2 mana. We've also got Fleshbag Marauder and Plaguecrafter, which both function as edict effects. This is super helpful because our opponents are affected negatively by this, and we just sacrifice Fleshbag or Plaguecrafter or a token that doesn't matter, and we benefit from all of our sacrifice payoffs. We also have Revelark, which when it leaves the battlefield, we can return 2 creature cards with power 2 or less from our graveyard to the battlefield. A lot of our creatures have power 2 or less, so this is super helpful. We can sacrifice the Revelark to awaken the Blood Avatar, and get back 2 creatures to cast Awaken the Blood Avatar again. Finally, we have Secure the Wastes, which we can dump a bunch of mana into it, make a bunch of 1/1s, and then the way this works with Awaken the Blood Avatar is that for each 1 mana we pay into Secure the Wastes, we get 2 mana discounted on Awaken the Blood Avatar. So we basically get back double the mana that we spend -1, which is super helpful. Our second category is Oriq Revelers. These are cards that pay us off for sacrificing creatures. Basically, whenever we sacrifice creatures with Awaken the Blood Avatar, these cards will trigger, giving us card draw or life drain, all sorts of effects that we really want to have. So these effects are crucial to making the deck run, and a lot of them are what's going to help us lock down the board, generate card advantage, and win the game. First up, we've got 3 cards that ping our opponents and draw and gain us life when our creatures die. Cruel Celebrant, Zulport Cutthroat. Both say when another creature we control dies, each opponent loses a life and we gain a life. Bastion of Remembrance has the same text, but also makes a 1/1 when it enters the battlefield, and is a little more resilient as it's an enchantment. Next up, we've got Blood Artist and Mayhem Devil, which don't deal damage to each opponent, they just do it to target player. But Blood Artist does it when any creature dies, not when one of ours dies, and Mayhem Devil doesn't gain us life, but it can deal 1 damage to any target, meaning we can take out smaller creatures or even bigger creatures if we're sacrificing enough things on our turn. This is definitely a very underrated card and a very good card in this deck. Next up, we've got 3 token creators, Alinda the Dusk Rose, Pawn of Ulamog, and Teysa Orzhov Scion. Alinda lets us put 1/1 counters on her when another creature dies, and when we want to crack her for her ability eventually, when she dies, she makes X 1/1s, where X is her power, and they have lifelink, allowing us to gain a ton of life. Pawn of Ulamog makes 0/1s when our creatures die, which can sacrifice themselves for mana, but usually we're just going to sacrifice them for 2 mana discount on Awaken the Blood Avatar. Teysa also says when another black creature we control is put into a graveyard from play, we make a 1/1, and the 1/1 that we create is a white spirit. Then we can sacrifice 3 white creatures, remove a creature from the game. Basically, we can exile a creature. So it's a sacrifice outlet for our white creatures and a sacrifice payoff for our black creatures. We also have 2 more token creators with Blightmound and Pitiless Plunderer. Blightmound gives us pests when our non-token creatures die, which is super helpful because those can also die and gain us 1 life. It also pumps up our pests if we ever want to swing in with them. Pitiless Plunderer makes us treasure when our creatures die. Super helpful. We can sacrifice those artifacts to add mana of any color to our mana pool. Definitely worth playing this card in just about any Aristocrats style deck. We also have 3 card draw effects. Liliana Dreadhorde General, Grim Haruspex, and Midnight Reaper all give us a card draw when another non-token creature we control dies, and for Liliana it's any creature, not just non-token. Liliana also makes 2/2s with her +1, her -4 is an Edict effect, which helps us and hurts our opponents. It's usually an 8 for 1 on that Edict effect when she comes down, and her -9 will just win us the game. But she's mostly here for that static ability, much like Grim Haruspex and Midnight Reaper. Finally, we have Dictate of Erebos and Grave Pact, which act as Edict effects whenever our creatures die. When our creatures die, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Basically, we're able to kill off our creatures, and then our opponent's boards will pretty much be wiped at all times. They can't play any creatures. We've also got Skull Clamp, which we can equip to give a creature +1/-1, which can kill our 1/1s outright. And then when the equipped creature is put into a graveyard, draw 2 cards. So we can equip this to a bigger creature to draw 2 cards when we sacrifice it with another sacrifice outlet, or we can equip it to a small creature to kill it immediately and then draw 2 cards. It's an insane value engine that's super, super helpful in this deck. Our category 3 is Sacrificial Feast. These are our sacrifice outlets that allow us to sacrifice creatures in other ways than just Awaken the Blood Avatar. Now I will say we have the luxury in this deck of not playing very many of these. We only play the absolute cream of the crop in this deck because our commander is a repeatable sack outlet whenever we want from the command zone on a sorcery. It's never going to be shut down. It's an additional cost, so we can always pay that cost by sacrificing things as long as we have enough creatures and mana to pay for it. Meaning, we usually don't need other sacrifice outlets. However, we do have some other good ones. We have the 3 altars, Altar of Dementia, Ashnod's Altar, Phyrexian Altar. Altar of Dementia mills people when we sacrifice a creature equal to that creature's power. Ashnod's Altar, we can sacrifice a creature and add 2 colorless, and Phyrexian Altar, we can sacrifice a creature and add 1 of any color, giving us mana fixing, mana production, when we're not casting Awaken the Blood Avatar. We also have Yawgmoth Thran Physician, who has a crazy wall of text. Basically, we can pay a life, sack a creature, we put a -1/-1 counter on a creature, and draw a card. That's the most important part. We can also pay black, discard a card, proliferate. This only matters if we have Liliana out, otherwise it's pretty much useless. But that first ability allows us to have a really good sacrifice outlet that also draws us cards. We've also got Phyrexian Tower, which is a land, taps for colorless. We can tap it to sack a creature and add 2 black. Just really good. It'll always, at its base, tap for colorless, and it can tap for 2 mana if we sack a creature, which is just double upside in our deck. Our fourth category I like to call Slammin Avatars. In this category, we are just trying to get as many avatars as possible to get the best value we can out of our avatars, because it's not a pure aristocrats deck. We also like to play around with having these avatar tokens. So Dualcaster Mage, Fury Storm, Reverberate all copy our Awaken the Blood Avatar spell because it's a sorcery. Dualcaster Mage has the addition of being on a body, and Fury Storm allows us to copy itself for each time we've cast our commander, which is usually going to be an absolutely insane amount. At the base level, we're going to use this to copy Awaken the Blood Avatar twice for 4 mana, which is already a very good rate. Anything past that is absolutely insane. We've also got some damage effects. Perforos, God of the Forge, pings our opponents each for 2 when another creature ETBs. This is helpful for all our tokens, our self-recurring creatures, and our avatars, basically just killing our opponents very slowly as we make creatures. Fiery Emancipation basically says if our sources would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals triple damage. So when those avatars attack, they deal 9 to each opponent. Gratuitous Violence is along the same lines. It deals double damage. Overall, just super helpful in this deck. We've also got Tergrid, God of Fright, and Revel in Riches. Tergrid basically allows us to steal a permanent when our opponents sacrifice it. They're forced to sacrifice with Awaken the Blood Avatar's text, which reads, each opponent sacrifices a creature. Tergrid's Lantern is also a decently helpful backside. We can force a player to lose 3 life or sack a permanent, and then we can untap it. It's pretty much useless. We're always going to cast Tergrid. And then Revel in Riches is super interesting. We make treasures when our opponent's creatures die, and then if we have 10 of those treasures, we just win the game, which is crazy. It's a super good alternate win con. Finally, we've got 2 of the best cards in the deck, Anointed Procession and Commander's Insignia. Anointed Procession doubles our tokens, so each time we cast Awaken the Blood Avatar, we get 2 tokens instead of 1. Absolutely insane. Commander's Insignia gives our creatures +1/+1 for each time we've cast our commander. We're going to be casting Awaken the Blood Avatar so many times. Our creatures are going to be huge. This is probably the best card in the deck because of how huge it makes all of our avatars and other creatures. This card basically hits the field and we win that turn or the next turn because of how important this card is, how many times we're going to be casting our commander. Our 5th category is a short one. It's Reanimation Ritual. We've got some ways to reanimate creatures that aren't self-reanimating. So Karmic Guide basically allows us to reanimate a creature, then it sacrifices itself. We can also loop this and Revelark with any of our payoffs to win the game instantly. It is an infinite combo, but we don't really have any tutors for it, so it's a pretty casual combo here. Agadeem's Awakening is a land that we can pay 3 to have it come in untapped, and it'll tap for black. But it's also a sorcery, where we pay X black and return a bunch of creature cards that each have a different CMC of X or less. So we can pay 6, return a 3-drop, a 2-drop, and a 1-drop, and it scales up from there or down depending on how much mana we pay. But at its base, it's just a swamp. Living Death is a board wipe that also reanimates everything from our graveyard. So typically we'll have a sacrifice outlet on the field, sacrifice all of our creatures, cast Living Death. All our opponent's creatures die, all our creatures come back from the graveyard to the battlefield. So we don't lose anything, we actually gain things, and our opponents lose their entire board. Generally super helpful. Now we're getting more into the sort of bare bones of the deck, not the synergy stuff, but the stuff we sort of have to have. And our 6th category here is Ramp. We've got our 3 talismans in our colors. We've also got 3 signets in our colors. And we've got Arcane Signet, Chromatic Lantern, Felwar Stone. Arcane Signet and Felwar Stone will both tap for all three of our colors pretty much all the time. Chromatic Lantern just makes our lands tap for our colors, and itself can tap for a color. And then the best ramp in the deck, of course, saved for last. Dockside Extortionist usually will pay for itself and much more, create a bunch of treasure tokens. Sol Ring is a classic. You pay 1, you get 2 mana back. Super good advancement. And then Smothering Tithe, of course. Whenever our opponents draw, we make a treasure usually because they're unwilling to pay 2, and we just draw a bunch of cards, make a ton of treasure, win the game. Super great card. Our next category is Removal, Board Wipes, and Protection. We're starting things off with the removal. Anguished Unmaking, Generous Gift, both remove permanents. Anguished Unmaking exiles, Generous Gift gives them a 3/3. We've also got Vanishing Verse, which is a 2-mana instant, exile target monocolored permanent. New card from Strixhaven. I'm sort of speculating on this card. I'm not sure if it's going to be great. It looks pretty good. It's exile for 2 mana. I put it in over D-Spark into this deck. I think it'll be pretty good, but we'll have to see. And then we've also got Bedevil and Swords to Plowshares. Bedevil destroys an artifact creature planeswalker for 3 mana, and Swords to Plowshares is super efficient creature removal. For our protection, we've got Ameria's Call, which flips to Ameria Shattered Skyclave, and Teferi's Protection. Ameria's Call is 7 mana, gives our non-angel creatures indestructible, and gives us 2 4/4 angels. And at its base side, it's all planes that we have to pay 3 life for, which is just super good. It has a ton of upside, and no downside to playing it. And then Teferi's Protection forces all our permanents to phase out, we gain protection from everything, and our life total can't change. Basically, we can't be touched for a turn. So if we just need to survive for another turn, if we're being swung at, cast Teferi's Protection, survive until our next turn at least. We've also got board wipes, Austere Command, Toxic Deluge, the two, in my opinion, 2 of the 3 best board wipes in the format, super versatile, always make us come out on the winning side of these board wipes, and if needed, can just completely reset the board. And then our 1 tutor is Demonic Tutor. It's just 2 mana, tutor any card to our hand, and then shuffle. Super easy, super helpful, and super versatile. Our 8th category is lands. I'm going to run through this very quickly because they're just the classic Commander land package. We've got our 3 shock lands, our 3 check lands, our 3 pain lands, 3 filter lands, 3 bond lands, our 2 horizon lands, Silent Clearing and Sunbaked Canyon, and our 1 tango land, which is Smoldering Marsh. We've got City of Brass and Mana Confluence, which tap for any of our colors and we can pay 1 life for it. Command Tower, which taps for any of our colors. Exotic Orchard will tap for any of our colors most of the time. Urborg makes all of our lands swamps, allows us to have black mana always, and Crypt of Agadim. We can tap for a black and pay 2, tap it to add black for each black creature card in our graveyard. Finally, rounding out the lands, we've got 1 mountain, 3 plains, and 5 swamps for any time we need a tutor for basic lands, and just because basic lands are actually pretty good. So we've got a low amount, but that's because we don't have very many basic land tutors, if any at all, actually. Next up, I've added a new thing to our deck text now, and I think they're super helpful. It's deck stats. So this deck stats, I personally like them quite a bit. 12 ramp is really, really solid. Lots of ramp. This is great. 6 draw seems a little low, but when you think about it, this is a graveyard-focused deck, so you really don't care about drawing cards, because your value is going to be in your graveyard on the battlefield, and you'll always be able to get it back. So it doesn't matter that you're not drawing cards, because you're just consistently going, casting things from your command zone, from your graveyard. You don't really need to draw that many cards. It's a value engine-based deck that doesn't need card draw, so that's why it's low. 11 spot removal, including Edict effects. This is great. This doesn't even count Awaken the Blood Avatar, but this is just generally so good. And then 2.5 board wipes, that 0.5 coming from Living Death. We generally don't have many because we're going to play a lot of creatures, a lot of tokens, and we don't want to wipe them away a lot of the time, but we do have those that we are going to use if it ever gets out of hand. Thank you guys for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And while you're at it, turn on the notification bell to be notified every single time I upload. Also, you can check me out on Patreon. Your support there is greatly appreciated and allows me to continue making content. Also, make sure to join the Discord for exclusive polls about new videos, the ability to chat with me in my recording group, and special perks you don't have if you're not in the Discord. Thank you for watching, and I will see you later.